Interesting. All right. Time now for our feature this hour.
Speaking of racing.
Speaking of racing, Jeff has a feature on slot cars. Remember slot cars? I do.
Yep. Well, and this is because it's wintertime. What do you do in the winter? Some people go skiing. Not everybody can afford that.
Bowling.
Bowling is another one, an indoor sport. And people at home did this, and they did it
ice fishing?
Yeah, ice fishing, yeah. Let's go ice fishing. Long before the popularity of racing cars, racing video games, the slot car craze in the 60s and 70s had young people and their parents obsessed with racing scale models. In the 60s, home versions of the slot car racing tracks were available, but that wasn't the only place to race. You could find places all over the U.S. where you could go racing. If you had a car, you could do that. You could set up a track at home. But in the 60s, there were about 2,700 places across the country you could do this. Large slot car tracks built to accommodate racers in hobby shops, and places build themselves as little mini raceways. You had to pay to go in. There was an hourly fee, much like you guys know that. Have a slot car. You could also rent one. It's basically like a bowling alley, which Don just said. You've got different controllers. You got pistol grips. You got manually regulated finger grips and things. The newer grips have push button and thumbs and all that good stuff. While the physical activity required to drive a slot car was limited, racing scale models went from 0 speeds to 100 miles an hour per scale in a split second, and that was required. Like real racing, you go fast as you possibly can. You full speed down the straightaway, slow down in the turn. Can you make the turn? Can you get through the turn? Can you get the drift without flying off the track? That was a big problem. In 1963, the U.S. Championship slot car racing was live on TV. Where was it, Mike? It was on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. That's how popular it was.
How funny. I didn't know that.
However, the popularity of racing cars decelerated quickly. It slowed down in the 70s with the advent of all the electronic toys, personal computers, video games, and it really slowed down. But along comes COVID, and people wanted to bring something back. Parents thought, what did they do when they stayed home? Well, when they were young, so they introduced the kids to slot car racing. The physical experience of slot car racing is different than racing on a video game. It's a communal experience. Rather than sitting in front of a TV screen playing alone, this is having a group of friends playing racing games with the family. The new generation of Carrera tracks, which is actually called Carrera Revel Americas, who owns the big operation of these tracks, to include updated scale models for the racing enthusiasts and tailored for little home kits and things. I had one. Don had one. There are 1, 2, 3, 4. There's like 6 different scales, HO, all the way up to 1/18th scale. With 1/18th, they're like 10 inches to 12-inch cars. Now, how much do we do this? Well, back in the day, don't know how much it is right now, but back in the day, $8 would get you track time for an hour. If you didn't have a car, you could spend $12, and they'll let you rent a car, and you still have the same track time. Now, if you wanted to go competitive racing, $7.50 for an hour, and you get 30 minutes of open practice, 8 heats, which last about 3 to 5 minutes. So, not only that, in slot car racing, but you have dragsters as well.
And the cars were extremely customizable, you know.
I got it.
You know, a lot of the cars would come as a clear body, and you'd paint it yourself.
Yeah, and you painted the inside.
Well,
it had that nice shiny finish when you got finished.
And then all the different modifications you could do as far as motor and tires and gearing and stuff.
The brushes, little motors, how they're wired. The more wiring, the faster you go. And as you saw in some of the pictures there, 2, 4, 6, or 8 lane tracks. 2 were the home, 4 were more of a commercial, and then you get up to 8, sometimes 10. Depending on how it was.
And there was a slot car track up in the Cypress area for a number of years. I think it has since closed.
I think there were 2. There was one actually down in Sugar Land, but it was a small little hobby shop.
Yeah. And I'm sure the hobby shop, that's why they had the tracks, was because they were the ones selling the product.
Right,
it was the revenue stream as well as getting people in there. I mean, some guys would show up with like little tackle boxes, and they'd have their cars all in their deals, and they'd have tires, and you know, it
wasn't a little tackle box. They brought the big tackle box.
Yeah. You know, that was the guys that had enough money to put some serious money.
Looked like Mars's stuff over here.
Exactly. Our remote.
I showed up with my car in my shirt pocket, and that was about it.
My car was, I guess, about that big. I don't know what size
you
that
had the
was.
big ones.
Well, I'll tell you.
I only had one.
The HO were 2.5 inches to 3 inches long.
That's the size of a matchbox.
The 1.43 scale was 4.3 inches long, right around 4 inches long. The 1/32nd scale was 5 inches to 6 inches. And then the 124 was 7 inches to 8 inches. And then the 1/18th scale was the 10 to 12 inches.
Yeah.
The bigger you went on this, like the 1/32nd up to the 1/18th, those things would fly.
They would.
Yeah.
To a
And
point
you
of
had to
being
have
dangerous.
bigger tracks and more
Right,
room for the
longer
track
track.
because they were wider.
Exactly.
And truly, the aerodynamics of the body style you chose had an impact on the performance of the car. That's
right.
I don't think they
even
were
though it
putting
was
them in wind
small
tunnels.
Scale. Well, yeah, but they were a lot of those bodies were designed after
Real cars.
current race cars
Right,
and stuff. So those aerodynamic tendencies were brought to those.
And some
new
of them
cars.
were bodied over the wheels and tires. Others weren't. They were open wheel.
No, there's a bunch of information out there on this on the internet. So check it out. Go do it.
Thank you, Jeffrey. The In Wheel Time Car Talk Show is available 24/7 through the iHeartRadio app. Just look for In Wheel Time Car Talk. We also video stream on Facebook, YouTube at InWheelTime.com. Podcasts at your fingertips and over a dozen of the most popular podcast outlets. The In Wheel-